Okay friends, it is time for another 30-minute or less beginner Cricut project. Also, I just have to tell you that it's a little noisy at my house today because they are cutting down trees in our backyard that died over the winter. Very sad. Hang on, I will show you the progress. They are very dead and they have to come down. The whole goal of this series is so you can learn to make projects that don't take a ton of time, because you don't always have 2 hours to sit down and do a Cricut project. You don't even have an hour. Sometimes you just have 30 minutes or less, and you never know what to make. And let me tell you, I was in that boat when I first started Cricut crafting. I would sit down, I would only have a little bit of time while my kids were napping, and I had no clue what I could even make in that amount of time. And I definitely didn't want to start a project that I couldn't finish while I was sitting there. So that's what this series is all about. It is 30-minute or less Cricut projects. Let's get into it. And today was the only day I have time to film. So you're just gonna have to deal with the background noise and just know that it is what it is. Okay, so today is a perfect beginner project, definitely 30 minutes or less. We are gonna personalize one of these little clear zipper totes. I love projects like this because they're so easy and they're such great little gifts. They're so cute. You can do so many things with them. I see a lot of people put their names on them, or they put what they're gonna use it for. If you have a school-aged kid, these are great for like labeling for pencils, markers, pens, or whatever you want. Today, we're gonna keep it simple and we're gonna label it stuff. So we're gonna personalize this cutie little zipper tote. I also love these because they're cheap. You can get them at the Dollar Tree, you can get them at Walmart, you can get them at Target. They're really inexpensive. They make great little gifts. So today we're gonna do one that says stuff, and we're gonna put little flowers on it. We're gonna talk a little bit about layering vinyl today, but mostly we're just going to practice working with permanent adhesive vinyl and do a little bit of layering in the process. So let me tell you what you're gonna need for this project. Okay, you are going to need 4 colors of vinyl, and today we are using all StarCraft permanent vinyl, which is one of my favorites. You can get it from my craft source. I will link where I got everything in the description of this video. But just know that everything you see in this video today, you can get at my craft source except the zipper pouch. And we are using StarCraft brand for our vinyl. So I'm gonna use this powder blue color, this very pale blush pink, hot pink, and then a sheet of white. Those are all of your vinyl colors. And then you also need some transfer tape. Here's mine. And then you're gonna need your zippered tote, which you already saw. Other than that, you really just need a basic set of Cricut tools. You can also get those at my craft source if you don't already have them, but it's good to have a pair of scissors that are pretty sharp and compact, a weeding hook, and that's really it. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this project. We will start at the computer and I'll show you how to set up your file for cutting. Okay, so we have our design uploaded into Cricut Design Space here, and if you don't have this design, I am giving it away for free. You can use the link in my bio on any of my social media platforms or in the description of this video to download your copy of this SVG for free if you want to use it on your design. This is what it'll look like though when you put it into Cricut Design Space, and we're just gonna do a couple quick things to make sure it's ready for our zipper pouch. The first thing we want to do is measure our zipper pouch and then resize this so that it is all going to fit. So let me measure really quick and then we'll resize. Okay, so my usable area is about 9 inches in width by 5 inches in height. So we're going to go ahead and bump this up to 9 just to see what that would look like here. And then that makes it a little bit too tall. So we're gonna drop some of these flowers into different spaces, maybe even get rid of some flowers so that we can fit in the boundaries of our space here. That's the cool thing about using an SVG, by the way, is you do have the ability to delete certain parts of it, resize certain parts of it to your heart's content, because it is an editable file. So that's kind of exciting. It's getting a little too crowded looking for me, so let's see what we're working with right now. It's still a little bit too tall, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go to my shapes menu and I'm going to drop in a rectangle here, and I'm going to make that rectangle 9 by 5, and then I'm going to put that rectangle in the back, so you can actually just right click it and hit send to back. And now I know what space I'm working with, so now I can kind of drag these into frame so I'm not just having to eyeball it. This is also where if I wanted to delete some of these, if I didn't feel like they worked, I could do that. Right now, I feel like they're probably gonna be good. I could just drag these forever and never be pleased with it. Okay, I'm gonna make a few of these smaller just to kind of add interest here. It's looking a little boring for my taste. A little bit better there. Okay, so we have the front of our pouch, and now we can delete this backing layer because we just needed that as a guide anyway. And now we're gonna do one more thing because I want my letters to be 2 layers, not just one. I'm gonna use both of those tones of pink on here just to add a little extra interest. And the way you do that is by clicking on your letter grouping, and you can click this offset button. And then I'm gonna drag it down until it's about 0.097. I'm just eyeballing how I like the look of it. And once I see it kind of tight around the letters, but not so tight that it's gonna be annoying to weed, I'm good with that. I don't usually stick with a specific number. I just go by what I feel like looks good, and I love how that looks. I do wanna use the rounded corner, and then once I'm done, I just hit apply. And what that's gonna do is create a backing layer for your letters that is actually a separate layer. So if I were to drag this pink layer off, you could see there's that backing layer. And we can set that to a different color if we want by clicking up here. I'm gonna make it kind of a hot pink layer. So I may just like go ahead and make it look more pink. That way we can see exactly what this is really gonna look like. And this is a pretty good indication of what our pouch is gonna look like. So now we are ready to go ahead and cut this on our Cricut. Let me go ahead and get my Cricut turned on over here. Okay, so this is ready to be cut now. So we're gonna click Make It. We're gonna say we're gonna cut it on the mat, and we do wanna use a 12 by 12 mat today. So there's all the little dots for our daisies. That's great. That's gonna be on a layer of its own because those are gonna be white. And then we have our light pink layer. And then we have our blue layer, which is gonna be our flowers, and our hot pink layer last, which is our backing layer. Nothing needs to be mirrored because we're using adhesive vinyl today, so we can just go ahead and click continue. And then for every layer today, we're gonna be using this premium vinyl removable matte setting, and we're gonna use the default pressure. So since we're doing that for every layer, you can click this box that says to remember material settings, and that'll just save you a step in between all of your layers. So once you've done that, it's time to load our first layer onto the mat. So I'm gonna hop off the computer and I will see you back in real life in just a second. Okay, so our first layer is that white layer that is the inside of our daisies. So we're just gonna put our white vinyl on our Cricut mat, and you just do it the color side up, smooth it on down, and then we are ready to load this into the Cricut. And then we're ready to press play once the go sign is flashing. We are off to the races on these tiny little dots. Once the load unload button is flashing, that means we are ready to unload our mat and move on to the next layer. Once our Cricut is done cutting, you just flip over your mat, peel the mat away from the vinyl, and then you can set it off to the side and go ahead and load up your next layer, which for us is light pink. So I'm just gonna grab that light pink, take the tape that I've been keeping on it off, and then I know I don't need very much of this because this is just the inside of my letters. So I'm just gonna grab my scissors here. And what I'm actually gonna do, since this is in a roll and it can get curled up on you and it gets really annoying, is I go ahead and I lay down my vinyl first before I cut it. This is just to keep it lined up really nicely there. And I go ahead and press it down. This is also a good way to measure it so I know how much I need. And then I just go ahead and cut. That way it's not constantly getting curled up on you, and that way you can also do a little bit of measuring too, using your Cricut mat measurements. So then once that is good and pressed down, we are ready to load this into our Cricut, and you are done with this color, so you can go ahead and store it wherever you store your vinyl. Okay, so now we're ready to do the same thing again. Then we put our third layer down, which is actually our blue layer. So we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna lay our color down first, kind of get it pressed on there. This is just for those flowers. So this is actually not gonna be a lot of vinyl at all. Then we're gonna go ahead and cut. It can be a little harder to cut straight when you do it like this, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. The vinyl waste from not cutting straight is pretty marginal. All right, same thing as we did last time. Peeling away. And then for our fourth and final layer, which is this hot pink color, mine's kind of crinkled, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use the whole thing because whatever I don't cut this time is probably not going to be salvageable, but we'll see. This is a very old piece of vinyl that I have been waiting for just the right moment to use, and I've decided that moment is today. Okay, we have reached the last layer. So now we're gonna trim all of our layers down to size so we can save whatever we didn't cut with today. So first I'm starting with this pink layer because that's the one I just cut. Then we're gonna save the rest of this little pretty blue. Then we've got our pink. And lastly, our tiny little white dots. Now we are ready to weed, which should be fairly simple. I'm using my little pink weeding hook from my craft source today. You can use whichever weeding hook you have. So let's find the beginning of these little flowers. Weeding is simpler than you think. You're just gonna take your hook, find the edge of your design, and guide it towards the edge of the vinyl there. Then you can actually use your hands to do the rest, which is pulling up that excess and leaving behind your design. If your vinyl doesn't weed that easy, you need to be using better vinyl. Now we're gonna do our dots. If anything's gonna be problematic for us today, it's gonna be these tiny little dots, but we'll see how they go. No trouble at all with the StarCraft there. Now we're gonna do our hot pink letters. Again, you're just taking your vinyl and guiding to the edge there. This time though, we have some interiors to weed out, so we're gonna do that. I sometimes use my scrap as a place to hold the little interior parts because it all sticks to itself. There is a tiny little interior part on this F here, which means there's one over here too. And then lastly, our pink. Finding the edge and just pulling up. Voila! We are weeded and ready to apply to our zipper pouch. All right, here's our zipper pouch ready to be worked with. I'm just gonna cut the tags off really quick. Probably should have done that sooner, but you know, here we are. All right, so I'm gonna use this as the front, and we're gonna start with our letters here because I wanna then place my daisies kind of around it. So I've already got a piece of transfer tape already ready to go. We wanna start with this hot pink layer because it's our backing layer. So we wanna do that first. So we're just going to put our transfer tape on top of it, smooth it down with our hands. You could use a squeegee for this if you have one readily available, but you don't have to have one for every project that you do. So then we're just going to line it up where we want it. Press down. Make sure we work out any bubbles. This material can be finicky because it wants to crinkle up on you. And then you just slowly peel away, creating as flat of an angle as you can to really avoid bubbles. And now we're gonna layer our light pink on top. You can reuse the same piece of transfer tape. This is the hard part because you have to try to line up your letters here. I'm actually gonna cut this down a little bit because it's a little hard to work with so much extra. It keeps getting stuck. So I'm actually gonna cut this down closer to size here to make it easier to line it up. Okay. Now we should be good to go. Flatten it out. Oh, perfection. So now you just press it down, make sure it's really on there good. And then you just slowly peel away. Now we're onto our daisies, and I'm actually gonna cut this down even farther. And I am just gonna use this little square because actually we can just kind of do these one at a time. Just like that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And I'm just alternating between the big ones and the small ones, putting them wherever I want. Voila! Now we just need to do the little dots that go in the middle of our flowers. And I just picked up a new transfer tape scrap just because my other one was getting a little bit used. Now we're gonna remember that our smaller dots go on our smaller flowers, bigger dots go on bigger flowers. And then we're just skin up those dots, placing them where they go. Vinyl loves to stick to itself. So on these little layering spots, it's actually way simpler than you think it's gonna be because the vinyl loves to stick on top of other vinyl. So you never really have a hard time getting it to stay. And I like doing them a little off center sometimes, so don't agonize yourself about getting it perfect. And that is the end, friends. Okay friends, that was our 30-minute or less project for the week. I think it turned out so cute. It was so fun. And honestly, it really is beginner friendly. It really did take 30 minutes or less. The thing I love about this project is vinyl loves to stick to this material. So it's a really good beginner project. You don't have to worry about it being too finicky. And like we said, vinyl loves to stick to itself. So the layering here was super simple. So I hope you loved it. I think this really leveled up this little clear zipper pouch, and you have this file now. So you can actually go into Cricut Design Space, delete the stuff, and you can use Cricut fonts to add whatever you want here. And you could make a whole grouping of these. You could make a whole set if you wanted to. We obviously kept this one simple, and it is just for stuff. But this would be great for like little water bags at the beach or little things for your kids' school. I just think they're really fun. And again, really cheap, really simple. They turn out great and they make great gifts. So I hope you love this one. I hope you had a good time learning to layer some vinyl, learning to make something new in 30 minutes or less. And I will see you next week where we're gonna do another 30-minute or less project. So until then, happy crafting.